Jake Miller wiped the sweat from his face as he worked under the broken air vent. The wrench in his hand was old and heavy, just like most of the tools on Station Harmony. He had been fixing things on this space station for 3 years now. It was not exciting work, but it paid well and kept him busy. Station Harmony was huge. It floated in space between 3 different star systems. Ships came here from all over the galaxy to talk business and make deals. Jake had seen many strange aliens during his time here, but he never talked to them much. He was just the maintenance guy who fixed their broken pipes and lights. Today felt different, though. The whole station buzzed with nervous energy. The Zephyrian delegation had arrived 2 days ago, and everyone was acting strange. The Zephyrians were tall, thin aliens with skin that looked like crystal. When light hit them, they sparkled like diamonds. They moved like dancers and spoke in voices that sounded like music. Jake finished tightening the last bolt on the air vent and packed up his tools. He walked down the long hallway toward the diplomatic quarters. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. The station was quieter than usual. Most of the regular workers had been told to stay away from this section while the important meetings happened. He turned a corner and almost bumped into Captain Ross Turner. The security captain looked worried and tired. "Jake, good timing," Ross said. "We need all the vents in Section 7 checked today. The Zephyrians say the air feels wrong in their rooms." "Sure thing, Captain," Jake replied. "Is everything okay? Everyone seems on edge today." Ross looked around to make sure no one was listening. "The trade talks are not going well. Some of the Zephyrians don't want to make any deals with other species. They think it will make them weak." Jake nodded. He did not understand politics, but he knew when people were angry, and angry people sometimes did stupid things. He made his way to Section 7, where the Zephyrian delegation was staying. The hallways here were fancier than the rest of the station. The walls were painted in soft colors and the lights were dimmed to make everything feel calm. But Jake could sense the tension in the air. As he worked on the first vent, he heard raised voices coming from one of the meeting rooms. The Zephyrians were arguing in their own language. It sounded like wind chimes in a storm. Jake could not understand the words, but he knew anger when he heard it. Suddenly, alarms started blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed on and off. Jake had heard these alarms before during safety drills, but this was real. His heart started beating faster. Emergency messages played over the speakers. "All personnel report to safe zones immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Jake grabbed his tool bag and started running toward the nearest exit. But then he heard something that made him stop. It was a small voice crying. A child was somewhere nearby, and they sounded scared. He followed the sound down a side hallway. The crying got louder. Jake turned another corner and saw something that made him freeze. A small figure was running toward him. It was a Zephyrian, but much smaller than the others he had seen. This one was no bigger than a human child. Behind the small Zephyrian, Jake heard heavy footsteps and shouting. Someone was chasing this little one, and they did not sound friendly. The small Zephyrian saw Jake and ran straight to him. She was clearly female and could not have been more than 7 years old. Her crystal skin was pale with fear, and her large eyes were filled with tears. She grabbed onto Jake's work coveralls and looked up at him with desperate hope. "Help," she whispered in broken English. "Please help." Jake looked down at her and felt something stir in his chest. This was just a scared kid, alien or not. The footsteps behind her were getting closer, and Jake could hear angry voices speaking in Zephyrian. Without thinking, Jake scooped up the little girl and pulled her into a maintenance alcove behind a large power unit. He put his finger to his lips to tell her to be quiet. She nodded and pressed herself against his side. 3 large Zephyrian males ran past their hiding spot. They wore dark clothes and carried weapons that Jake had never seen before. Their crystal skin was dark with anger and their eyes glowed red. These were not the same peaceful diplomats he had seen earlier. "Where is the child?" one of them hissed to another in accented English. "She cannot have gone far," came the reply. "Find her. The plan fails if she escapes." Jake felt the little girl shaking against him. He wrapped his arm around her small shoulders and held her close. Whatever was happening here, it was bigger than just a failed trade talk. This was something dangerous. The sound of the armed Zephyrians faded as they moved further down the hallway. Jake waited several more minutes before moving. The little girl looked up at him with gratitude in her large, strange eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "I am Princess Lyra." Jake's eyes went wide. This was not just any Zephyrian child. This was royalty. And if those armed aliens were hunting her, then something very bad was happening on Station Harmony. He looked down at the small princess, still clinging to his coveralls. Her trust in him was complete, even though they had just met. Jake realized his quiet life of fixing broken things had just become much more complicated. But as he looked at Princess Lyra's frightened face, Jake knew one thing for certain. Whatever was happening, he would not let anyone hurt this child. Not while he could do something about it, so Jake stayed in the maintenance alcove with Princess Lyra for what felt like hours. The alarms had stopped, but the red emergency lights still flashed. The station was in lockdown mode. No ships could come or go, and all the blast doors were sealed. The little princess had stopped shaking, but she still held onto Jake's arm. She was so small and light that Jake barely felt her weight against him. Her crystal skin caught the red light and made rainbow patterns on the wall. "Are you hurt?" Jake asked quietly. Princess Lyra shook her head. "No hurt, but scared. Bad Zephyrians want to hurt my family." Jake pulled out his water bottle and offered it to her. She took a small sip and made a face. "Tastes strange," she said. "Sorry, it's just regular water. Probably different from what you drink at home." The princess smiled a little. "Home has sweet water from crystal springs. This is okay water." Jake found himself smiling too. Even in this scary situation, she was trying to be polite. "What happened back there? Why were those Zephyrians chasing you?" Princess Lyra's face grew serious. "Some of my people do not want peace with other worlds. They think trade makes us weak. They want to stop the talks." "By hurting you? By making my family go away forever," she whispered. "I am the only heir. If something happens to me and my mother, the rebels can take control." Jake felt cold fear in his stomach. These were not just angry protesters. These were people planning murder. And somehow, he had become the only thing standing between this child and danger. His communication device beeped. Jake answered it carefully, keeping his voice low. "Miller here." "Jake, thank God," came Captain Turner's voice. "Where are you? We have a situation." "I'm in Section 7 doing maintenance. What kind of situation?" There was a pause. "There's been some kind of attack on the Zephyrian delegation. Several people are missing, including their princess. We're doing a full search of the station." Jake looked down at Princess Lyra, who was listening to every word. He had to make a choice. Could he trust Captain Turner? The princess had said some people were helping the rebels. "I'll keep my eyes open," Jake said finally. "Let me know if you need anything." After he ended the call, Princess Lyra looked up at him with her big eyes. "You did not tell him about me." "I'm not sure who we can trust right now," Jake admitted. "Those bad Zephyrians seem to know where to find you. Maybe someone is helping them." The princess nodded sadly. "This happens before on other worlds. Some people get paid to help the rebels." Jake's stomach growled loudly. The princess looked surprised, then giggled. It was a sweet sound, like small bells ringing. "You are hungry?" she asked. "A little?" "Are you?" She nodded. Jake reached into his tool bag and pulled out his lunch. It was just a sandwich and some fruit, but he split it in half. Princess Lyra examined the sandwich carefully before taking a small bite. Her face lit up. "This is good. What is it?" "Turkey and cheese sandwich. Pretty basic human food." "I like basic human food," she declared, taking another bite. While they ate, Jake thought about what to do next. They could not stay in this alcove forever. The rebels would eventually search every inch of the station, but where could they go that would be safe? Jake knew the station better than almost anyone. He had crawled through every vent, fixed every pipe, and repaired every light. Maybe he could use that knowledge to keep the princess safe. "Princess, I need to move us to a better hiding spot. Are you okay with crawling through some tight spaces?" I'm small. I can go anywhere you go." Jake smiled at her confidence. "Okay, but you have to stay very quiet and do exactly what I say. I promise." Jake opened a maintenance panel near the floor. Behind it was a large air duct that led to the lower levels of the station. He had used these ducts many times to reach broken equipment. "Follow me," he whispered and crawled into the duct. Princess Lyra followed without complaint. The metal duct was cold and dark, but Jake's flashlight showed the way. They crawled for several minutes until they reached a junction where 4 ducts met. Jake stopped and listened. He could hear voices above them. The rebels were still searching. "Where are we going?" Princess Lyra whispered. "Somewhere safer. There's a place where I keep extra tools and supplies. No one else knows about it." They continued crawling until Jake found the right exit panel. He opened it carefully and looked out. They were in the lower maintenance area, far from the diplomatic quarters. This section was usually empty except for Jake and a few other engineers. Jake helped Princess Lyra out of the duct. She brushed dust off her clothes and looked around curiously. The maintenance area was full of pipes, wires, and humming machinery. "It's like a puzzle," she said, pointing at all the complex systems. "Yeah, sort of. I spend most of my time down here making sure everything works." Jake led her to a small room filled with spare parts and tools. It had a comfortable chair and a small table where he sometimes ate lunch when he worked late. Most importantly, it had its own air supply and could be sealed from the inside. "This is my secret hideout," Jake said. "We should be safe here for a while." Princess Lyra sat in the big chair, her feet not quite touching the floor. "You are very kind to help me. Most people would be too scared. Most people don't have little sisters," Jake replied without thinking. "You have a little sister?" Jake nodded. "Her name is Amy. She's about your age, lives back on Earth with my parents." Princess Lyra smiled. "You think of me like your sister?" "I guess I do. And I would never let anyone hurt my sister." The princess reached out and took Jake's hand. Her skin felt cool and smooth, like touching polished stone. "Thank you, big brother Jake." Jake felt a warm feeling in his chest. This brave little girl was counting on him. He would not let her down. But even as he made that promise to himself, Jake heard footsteps in the corridor outside. The rebels were getting closer. Their safe hiding place might not stay safe for very long. He looked at Princess Lyra, who was trying to be brave but could not hide the fear in her eyes. Jake squeezed her hand gently. "Don't worry," he said. "I'll figure something out." But deep down, Jake wondered if he really could protect her from trained killers who seemed to know the station almost as well as he did. Jake woke up with a start. He had dozed off in his chair while Princess Lyra slept curled up on a pile of soft material he used for equipment padding. The little girl looked peaceful, but Jake's heart was racing. Something had woken him up. Then, he heard it again. Footsteps in the main corridor moving slowly and carefully. Someone was searching this area. Jake gently shook Princess Lyra awake. She opened her eyes and immediately understood the danger. She did not make a sound, just nodded, to show she was ready. "Stay behind me," Jake whispered. He crept to the door and listened. The footsteps were closer now. Jake could hear at least 3 different people walking around. They were opening doors and checking rooms one by one. Jake's mind raced. There was another way out of this room through a service tunnel that led to the waste processing area. It would not be pleasant, but it might be their only chance. "Princess, we need to leave. Can you crawl through another tunnel?" "Yes," she whispered back. Jake opened a panel in the floor. The smell that came up was not good, but it was not dangerous. This tunnel carried wastewater to the processing plant, but it was big enough for them to crawl through without touching the water. They started crawling just as Jake heard the footsteps reach their corridor. His heart pounded as he led Princess Lyra through the smelly darkness. Behind them, he could hear doors being opened and searched. After 10 minutes of crawling, they reached another exit point. Jake opened the panel carefully and looked out. They were in the waste processing area. which was always empty during the day shift. The machinery here was loud, which would help cover any noise they made. Jake helped Princess Lyra out of the tunnel. She wrinkled her nose at the smell, but did not complain. "You are very brave," Jake told her. "My mother says princesses must be brave even when they are scared." Jake smiled at that. This kid had more courage than most adults he knew. His communication device beeped again. Jake hesitated, then answered it. "Miller here. Jake, it's Dr. Lisa Park from the medical bay. I need to see you right away. It's important." Jake knew Dr. Park well. She had treated him when he hurt his hand fixing a broken generator last year. But could he trust her? "I'm kind of busy right now, Doc." "Jake, I know about the princess. Carlos told me. You need help, and we want to provide it." Jake looked at Princess Lyra, who was listening carefully. Carlos Rivera was Jake's supervisor and one of his closest friends on the station. If Carlos trusted Dr. Park, maybe Jake could too. "Where?" Jake asked. "Medical Base 7. It's in the lower section, away from all the security sweeps. Come through the maintenance entrance." Jake ended the call and looked at Princess Lyra. "Some friends might help us, but we have to be very careful." She nodded. "I can feel people's intentions. It is a gift my people have. If someone wants to hurt me, I will know." That was useful information. Jake wished he had that ability right now. They made their way through more maintenance tunnels to reach Medical Bay 7. Jake went first and found Dr. Park waiting alone. She was a small woman with kind eyes and gentle hands. Carlos was with her, looking worried. "Jake, thank God," Carlos said. "We've been trying to figure out how to help you." Princess Lyra stepped out from behind Jake. Dr. Park gasped when she saw the little alien girl. "Oh my," Dr. Park said softly. "You're just a baby." Princess Lyra straightened up proudly. "I am 7 years old." "That is not a baby," Dr. Park smiled. "You're absolutely right. I'm sorry, Princess. You may call me Lyra." Jake watched as Dr. Park knelt down to be at Lyra's eye level. The doctor's movements were gentle and non-threatening. Princess Lyra studied her for a moment, then smiled. "She has a good heart," Lyra told Jake. "Like you." "What's the situation out there?" Jake asked Carlos. Carlos looked grim. "Bad. The rebels have taken several hostages, including some of the other Zephyrian diplomats. They're demanding that the Queen come to the station to negotiate." "That sounds like a trap," Jake said. "It is," Dr. Park confirmed. "They want to eliminate the entire royal family in one place." Princess Lyra's face went pale. "My mother will come. She will not leave me here alone." Jake felt sick. Queen Silandra was walking into a trap to save her daughter, and there seemed to be nothing they could do to stop it. "There's something else," Carlos said. "The rebels have some kind of scanning equipment. They're using it to search for Lyra. Our normal hiding places won't work much longer." "How long before they find us here?" Jake asked. "Maybe an hour, maybe less." Jake ran his hands through his hair. Every option seemed to lead to danger for Princess Lyra. Then Dr. Park spoke up. "What if we don't hide? What if we go on the offensive?" "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "The human embassy section has its own security and communication systems. If we could get Lyra there, Ambassador Elena Vasquez could contact the Galactic Council directly. She could warn them about the trap." Carlos nodded. "The embassy section is 3 levels up and halfway across the station. It won't be easy to get there without being seen." "I know every maintenance tunnel and service corridor on this station," Jake said. "I can get us there." Princess Lyra tugged on Jake's sleeve. "The bad Zephyrians are getting closer. I can feel their anger. It's like a dark cloud." Jake looked down at her. This little girl had been through so much, but she was still trying to help. He made a decision. "We go to the embassy. Dr. Park, can you create some kind of distraction?" "I can trigger a medical emergency alert in Section 4. That should draw some of their people away from the embassy area. Carlos, I need you to monitor the security channels. Let us know if anyone gets too close to our route." Carlos nodded. "Be careful, my friend. These rebels are not playing games." Jake knelt down next to Princess Lyra. "Ready for another adventure?" Took his hand and squeezed it. "Ready, big brother Jake." As they prepared to leave the medical bay, Jake hoped he was making the right choice. But looking at Princess Lyra's trusting face, he knew he had to try. This brave little girl deserved better than hiding in the shadows while killers hunted her. They were going to the human embassy, where hopefully someone could help them save not just Princess Lyra, but her mother as well. The journey to the human embassy was the longest hour of Jake's life. He led Princess Lyra through maintenance tunnels he had not used in months, crawling through spaces barely big enough for his shoulders. The little princess followed without complaint, even when they had to squeeze past hot steam pipes or climb over electrical systems. Twice they had to stop and wait while armed rebels passed nearby. Princess Lyra would grab Jake's hand and whisper bad feelings when the rebels got close. Her ability to sense people's emotions was keeping them alive. Finally, they reached the access tunnel that led to the human embassy level. Jake opened the panel carefully and looked out. The corridor was empty, but he could see security cameras mounted on the walls. "Those cameras will see us," Jake said. "Can you break them?" Princess Lyra asked. Jake shook his head. "If I break them, someone will notice and come to fix them. We need another way." Princess Lyra thought for a moment. "What if you were supposed to be here, like doing your job?" Jake smiled. The kid was smart. He pulled out his work order tablet and created a fake repair job for this level. If anyone asked, he was here to fix a broken light. They walked casually down the corridor. Jake carried his tool bag and acted like he belonged there. Princess Lyra stayed close to his side, trying to look like she was supposed to be with him. They were almost to the embassy entrance when Jake heard a voice behind them. "Stop right there." Jake turned around slowly. A tall Zephyrian male stood at the end of the corridor. This one was different from the others Jake had seen. He wore military-style clothes and carried weapons that looked very advanced. His crystal skin was dark red with anger and his eyes glowed like fire. "Commander Zethkar," Princess Lyra whispered. Jake could feel her trembling. "Well, well," the commander said in perfect English. "The little princess and her human pet. You have caused us much trouble, child." Jake stepped in front of Princess Lyra. "She's just a kid. Leave her alone." Commander Zethkar laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Just a kid? She is the key to everything. Without her, the old ways die and we become weak like the other species. The old ways that include murdering. Children?" Jake asked. The commander's eyes flared brighter. "You do not understand our culture, human. Some sacrifices must be made for the greater good." Princess Lyra stepped out from behind Jake. Despite her fear, she stood up straight and spoke in a clear voice. "You are wrong, Zethkar. The old ways teach us to protect the innocent, not harm them. You have forgotten what it means to be Zephyrian." "I have forgotten nothing, little princess. It is you who has been corrupted by alien influence." Jake watched as more armed rebels appeared at both ends of the corridor. They were trapped. But Jake noticed something interesting. The rebels seemed hesitant to get too close to Princess Lyra when she was speaking with authority. "You want to talk about corruption?" Jake said loudly. "You're the ones working with traitors and killing your own people. That sounds pretty corrupt to me." Several of the rebel soldiers shifted uncomfortably. Jake realized that not all of them were completely convinced by their commander's cause. "Enough talk," Commander Zethkar said. "Take the child, kill the human." The soldiers raised their weapons, but before they could fire, alarms started blaring again. This time it was different alarms, ones that meant help was coming. Through the embassy doors came Ambassador Elena Vasquez with a full squad of Galactic Council security troops. Behind them was Admiral Helen Cross, the senior mediator for the Council. "Stand down immediately," Admiral Cross commanded. "You are in violation of galactic law." Commander Zethkar snarled. "We do not recognize your authority over Zephyrian internal matters." "You do now," came a new voice. Everyone turned to see Queen Silandra walking down the corridor. The Zephyrian queen was tall and elegant, with crystal skin that shone like Diamonds. But her face was filled with terrible anger. "Mother!" Princess Lyra called out. "Stay where you are, my daughter," the queen said. "I will handle this." Queen Silandra walked straight up to Commander Zethkar. The rebel leader was big and strong, but he seemed to shrink in front of his queen. "You have betrayed everything our people stand for," she said. "You have threatened children, murdered innocents, and brought shame upon our entire species." "I did it for the future of our people," Zethkar replied, but his voice was less confident now. "You did it for power," Princess Lyra said clearly, "and you forgot that real power comes from protecting others, not hurting them." Jake looked down at the little princess with pride. Even in this dangerous moment, she was braver than most adults. "My daughter speaks truth," Queen Silandra said. "This human has shown more honor in one day than you have shown in your entire life. He risked everything to protect a child who was not even his own species." Commander Zethkar looked at Jake with hate in his eyes. "He is just a human. What could he possibly teach us about honor?" Jake stepped forward. He was scared, but he was also angry. This alien had threatened Princess Lyra, and Jake would not stand for that. "I'll show you what I can teach," Jake said. "I challenge you to single combat." Everyone stared at Jake in shock. Commander Zethkar was twice his size and trained for war. Jake was just a maintenance worker with basic self-defense training. "Jake, no," Princess Lyra whispered. "You cannot be serious," Admiral Cross said. "The size difference alone makes this impossible." But Queen Silandra was studying Jake with new interest. By Zephyrian law, such a challenge cannot be refused. If it involves the protection of royal blood, Commander Zethkar smiled coldly. "Very well, human, I accept. When I defeat you, the child comes with me. And when I win, you surrender to the Galactic Council," Jake replied. The commander laughed. "You will not win, but I admire your courage, even if it is foolish." Ambassador Vasquez tried to step forward. "This is madness. Jake, you don't have to do this." Jake looked down at Princess Lyra. The little girl had tears in her eyes, but she nodded at him. "Yes, he does," she said softly. "This is what big brothers do." Jake smiled at her. "That's right, Princess. This is what big brothers do." As they prepared to move to a larger area for the combat, Jake knew he probably could not win in a straight fight. But maybe winning was not the point. Maybe the point was showing everyone what humans were willing to do to protect the innocent, even if it cost him everything. The central hub of Station Harmony had been cleared for the combat. Word had spread quickly through the station, and representatives from dozens of species gathered to watch. Jake had never seen so many different aliens in one place before. Princess Lyra stood with her mother and Admiral Cross in a special viewing area. Jake could see the worry in her big eyes, but she gave him a small wave when he looked at her. Commander Zethkar entered the combat circle looking confident and deadly. He had removed his weapons but kept his military armor. His crystal skin was dark red with excitement, and his movements were smooth and practiced. Jake stood on the opposite side wearing his regular work clothes. He looked very small compared to the Zephyrian commander. Some of the alien spectators were making betting sounds, and Jake was pretty sure no one was betting on him. Ambassador Vasquez came over to Jake one last time. "Are you sure about this? There's no shame in backing out." Jake shook his head. "I can't back out now. That little girl is counting on me." "Jake, he's a trained warrior. You fix air conditioners." "I know," Jake said, "but sometimes fixing things is exactly what's needed." Admiral Cross stood in the center of the combat circle. "By the laws of honor combat, this fight will continue until one participant surrenders or cannot continue. Are both fighters ready?" Jake nodded. His heart was beating so fast he could hear it in his ears. Commander Zethkar bowed mockingly. "Ready to teach this human about real strength." "Begin," Admiral Cross announced, stepping back quickly. Commander Zethkar moved faster than Jake expected. The alien warrior crossed the circle in 2 quick steps and aimed a punch at Jake's head. Jake barely got his arms up in time to block it. The impact sent Jake staggering backward. His arms felt numb from the blow. Commander Zethkar was not just bigger, he was much stronger too. The commander followed up with another attack, this time aiming for Jake's stomach. Jake tried to dodge, but the alien's reach was too long. The punch connected and drove all the air from Jake's lungs. Jake fell to one knee, gasping for breath. The crowd of aliens made various sounds. Some seemed disappointed that the fight was ending so quickly. "Is that all?" Commander Zethkar asked loudly. "This is what humans call courage?" Jake forced himself to stand up. His ribs hurt, and he could taste blood in his mouth. But when he looked over at Princess Lyra, she was watching him with complete faith in her eyes. "I'm not done yet," Jake said. Commander Zethkar shrugged and attacked again. This time Jake was ready. He could not match the alien's strength, but he had learned something important. The commander was used to fighting other trained warriors who fought back with similar techniques. Instead of trying to block or dodge, Jake did something unexpected. He stepped directly into the commander's attack and grabbed onto the alien's armor. The punch still hit him, but now Jake was too close for the commander to use his full strength. Jake wrapped his arms around the commander's waist and held on tight. It was not elegant or impressive, but it stopped the alien from throwing more punches. Commander Zethkar tried to shake Jake off, but the human's grip was stubborn. Jake had spent years lifting heavy equipment and crawling through tight spaces. His hands were strong from years of manual work. "Let go, you pest," the commander growled. "Nope," Jake said through gritted teeth. The commander grabbed Jake's shoulders and threw him across the circle. Jake rolled when he hit the ground and came up in a crouch. His whole body hurt now, but he noticed something interesting. Some of the rebel soldiers in the crowd looked uncomfortable. Jake stood up slowly. Blood was running from a cut on his forehead, but he wiped it away and took his fighting stance again. "Why do you keep getting up?" Commander Zethkar demanded. "You cannot win." "Because that's what you do for family," Jake replied. "You keep getting up." This time, when the commander attacked, Jake tried a different approach. Instead of trying to fight like a warrior, he fought like what he was, a maintenance worker who solved problems. When Commander Zethkar threw a punch, Jake grabbed the alien's wrist and twisted. It was a move he had learned when removing stuck bolts. Use leverage instead of strength. The commander stumbled, surprised by the unexpected technique. Jake followed up by sweeping the commander's leg. It was not a combat move, it was the same motion he used to clear debris from under machinery. Commander Zethkar fell hard, his armor clanging against the floor. The crowd of aliens made surprised noises. Several of the rebel soldiers were now looking at each other uncertainly. Commander Zethkar got up quickly, his face dark with anger. "Enough games!" He rushed at Jake with both fists raised. Jake knew he could not dodge this attack. The commander was too fast and too strong. But Jake also knew he did not need to win this fight. He just needed to not give up. Jake planted his feet and prepared to take the hit. But just before the commander reached him, Princess Lyra's voice rang out across the hub. "Stop!" Everyone turned to look at the little princess. She had broken away from her mother and was walking toward the combat circle. "Princess, stay back," Admiral Cross called. But Princess Lyra ignored him. She walked straight up to Commander Zethkar and looked up at him with her big, serious eyes. "Look at him," she said, pointing at Jake. "Look at what he is willing to do for someone who is not even his own species." Commander Zethkar looked down at the small princess, confusion replacing anger on his face. "He is not the strongest or the fastest," Princess Lyra continued, "but he has something you have forgotten. He has honor." Jake was leaning against the wall, breathing hard and bleeding from several cuts. But when Princess Lyra looked at him, he managed to smile. "This human has shown me what it truly means to be strong," Princess Lyra said, her voice carrying across the silent hub. "Real strength is not about hurting others. Real strength is about protecting them even when it's hard." Some of the rebel soldiers were nodding now. Jake could see doubt in their eyes as they looked at their commander. Queen Silandra stepped into the circle. "My daughter speaks wisdom beyond her years. Commander Zethkar, do you still claim that violence is the way to preserve our culture?" Commander Zethkar looked around the circle. His own soldiers were no longer meeting his eyes. The representatives from other species were watching him with disgust. Even some of the Zephyrian civilians in the crowd were shaking their heads. The commander started, then stopped. Princess Lyra walked over to Jake and took his hand. Thank you, big brother Jake. You did not need to win. You just needed to show everyone what humans are really like. Jake knelt down so he was at her eye level. And what are humans really like? Brave and kind and stubborn, she said with a giggle. Very, very stubborn. Commander Zethkar looked at Jake and Princess Lyra standing together. The sight of the small alien child holding hands with the battered human seemed to break something inside him. I surrender, he said quietly. The hub erupted in cheers from the crowd. Admiral Cross immediately ordered the arrest of Commander Zethkar and his remaining followers. Queen Silandra approached Jake as medical personnel checked his injuries. You have shown honor that transcends species, Jake Miller. I name you Soul Guardian to my daughter, a bond that makes you family in the eyes of all Zephyrians. Jake looked at Princess Lyra, who was beaming with pride. Does that mean I'm officially your big brother now? Forever and always, she said, hugging his arm carefully to avoid his bruises. Later, as Jake sat in the medical bay getting his cuts treated, Captain Turner came to visit. The trade agreement was signed an hour ago, Turner reported. Turns out when people see someone willing to get beaten up to protect a child, it makes them want to work together instead of fight. Jake smiled. How's Princess Lyra? Happy. She's been telling everyone about her big brother Jake who taught her. People about real courage. 3 months later, Jake received his first hologram message from Princess Lyra. She had been learning English and wanted to practice. Hello, Guardian Jake, her small voice said from the hologram. I am safe and happy. Mother says to tell you that you are always welcome on our world. I miss my big brother. Jake smiled as he watched the message. Around the station, other maintenance workers had started getting similar messages from alien children whose parents had heard the story. It seemed that humans were developing a reputation throughout the galaxy as the species that would protect anyone who needed help, and Jake realized that was exactly the kind of reputation he was proud to have.